Hey, there we are. Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to Code Noobs. We're here
Wee!
every morning at Saturday, and it's 9 a.m., April 13th. How you guys doing this morning? You got your coffees? What's going on?
Doing well. Busy week.
Yeah. Busy week. Yeah, we've been recording a whole bunch this week, I think. I have been.
Yeah,
Been
creating and
super
recording.
busy.
Yeah, man. Awesome. Well, welcome everybody who is here. Welcome back. We love you guys chiming in every morning on Saturday. I know it's bright and early for some of you guys who are out on the West Coast, so thank you for tuning in. Today we have a pretty cool call, pretty interesting video. Our topic today is what is the importance of taking action? And this is,
Before we get into
oh,
it, for everybody who's watching out there who may watch the recording, what would you like to get from this video? Or maybe towards the end, what did you not get from watching this video? So that way we could answer your questions for you, give you even more value because, hey, the more you participate, the more value you get for free.
that's right. We love providing
True.
free value
Mhm.
inside the group.
But apparently that's too expensive for some people.
Some people are like, no, man, you need to pay me to watch. Sorry.
That'd be the setup, right?
I think some people still wouldn't attend. They would be like,
Hmm.
nope, sorry. I
Yeah.
don't want your money.
Different strokes for different folks. It's
I
not
just
for
want to be
everybody.
miserable and not know anything about coding.
Mhm.
I don't know. Well, I think that's actually like sort of a good segue because so many people that I know out there and so many people that I've talked to sort of just want people to just hand them the solution. I mean, we were talking about that just before the call, how there's just people who you know, coding is like one of the most highly leveraged skills out there. You can do so much with it, but you got to
Yeah.
like take some action. Good morning, Chris. How you doing, buddy? Um,
Talking about taking action, always
yeah,
here bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, Chris. Way
I
to
know,
go.
right? Chris is here taking action every single week. And why do you think Chris gets the best results? Why do you think? Because he's
Because he's
Taking
here.
taking
action.
action.
Yeah, he's taking action every single week consistently, right? And that's part of what we emphasize inside this group is to be consistent, have accountability, and take action. So that's the whole live stream. So we're done.
Yeah. There you go.
All right.
Yeah,
Thank you.
you know what's funny about this though is like I think we so many people get convinced because we're taught, right, that you just you know, it's like go to school, get the degree, get the job. But nobody tells anybody that in between you have to, you know, it's how much you put in.
To
That's what you're
do
going to
this
get
stuff.
out, right? It's not
Yeah.
just getting that piece of paper doesn't matter, or just going, you know, just learning something isn't necessarily going to translate to success, right? You have to put effort in too. And I think this is why you see so many people that just like seem like they want things handed to them because it's like, well, I did the bare minimum. Don't I get something for that? And it's like, no, you know,
Yeah.
unfortunately, you're competing with everyone else, so you have to, you know, you have
I
to
think,
take action and motivate yourself. Yeah.
yeah, I think that was like the biggest lie of our generation was you just go to college and get a bachelor's degree and then you can get hired by anybody. And that's the biggest lie that was ever told in my generation, I think, because
Yeah.
so many
Ours
people that
too.
yeah, like so many people that I went to school with were like, "Oh, cool. I graduated. I spent 4 years doing this. Now, every company is going to want to just hire me." And they they have this harsh reality when they go to get a job is that nobody cares like at all. They don't care
No.
at all. In fact,
Well, guess what? Your degree's devalued basically because so many people
yeah,
went. Like that's the
exactly.
problem.
And also, it's like so many people went, but also so many people now know that those colleges don't actually teach much, right? They're in fact they're like they they brainwash a lot of people into like you know thinking that things are a different way than they actually are in the real world. So um you leave with this sheet of paper but it means nothing. And the companies actually value the people who like didn't go to college because they have real world experience. So
Mhm.
Yeah,
tough.
it's a weird situation, but I think a lot of people are affected by that. And I think this is one of the things that holds people up though, right? Because you know, it's so easy too, because like when we want something to happen, but it's hard. It's so easy to, instead of doing anything, blame others, blame the world, blame our situation, you know, play the victim because it feels good in the moment, right? To justify whatever's going on. But, you know, it's not getting you anywhere. And guess what? You're still going to be in the same position.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the same way that we saw like all of these college and university graduates working at Starbucks, now the trend is developer bootcamp graduates working at Starbucks. I mean, that's exactly where everyone it's exactly where everyone's going because how many people, countless people do we see all over the place who have taken a boot camp and still can't find work? And it's not
Yeah.
because work doesn't exist. It's
Yeah.
because the boot camps are after one thing, getting the money. They get the money, they teach a course that you could have gotten on Udemy for like 20 bucks, and then that's it. You're out the door. You paid for the boot
Yeah.
camp, you got the boot camp, but a boot camp doesn't translate to actual work. And I think that's why we're in a cool position because we actually do take web developers from learning to earning. And
Yeah.
that's one thing that I enjoy being part of with this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Paula made a pretty awesome comment. She said, people underestimate how much you can accomplish in their life if they take consistent action. One of the
Yeah.
biggest things she's learned with working with 7 to 8 figure entrepreneurs is that they take massive action. And I know that from our experience too. And they're not afraid of investing in themselves and don't expect free content alone to change their lives. And that's the truth. I mean, I've noticed that in my own life for a long time. I was like a free content gremlin. Like I was just like any free content that I can get, I'm going to just take it. And what you begin to realize is the free content is great, but it's only a percentage of what's there, right? When you actually pay for the content, you get so much more. And there's so much that comes with that and just accountability. We talked about that last week as well.
I wanted to mention
Yeah,
something too, because Bryce said he said he disagrees. It depends on the degree. Talking about college. And I
yeah,
think that's also to your point, though, Bryce. I think that is partially true, and I think it's also more the what you put in. Like I think it's more about the individual in the school. I see kids in college all the time, and I think a very small percentage of them do like put a lot of effort in. They take action, and those ones are usually the ones that are fine later because they're already in that mode of like thinking about themselves and like what they're going to actually do with their lives. I think there's a big difference there. Yeah.
yeah. I'm going to call you out on this one, Randall, to just, if you're okay with that, just to prove
Explain
Bryce's
yourself.
point.
Yeah.
Well, because I know Randall went to
Yeah.
college, right? Has a degree in physics, and then he got a veterinary degree, right? And he
Doctor
became
in
a
veterinary
veterinarian.
medicine.
Yeah,
Wasted $250,000. Yeah.
exactly. So here's the thing, right? I think yeah, you can say it depends on the degree, but it's only a very few number of degrees where that is true. And in most cases, that's still not true. Because
Most
even
people,
like,
most people never work in the field they go to school for,
yeah,
with a very
Yeah.
select few. So basically, I mean, it's like poisoning 90% of the population because 10% actually get a degree that's useful. And it's like,
yeah.
what's the point of doing that?
Well, not even that too,
I
though,
mean,
because you got to remember too, you're also flooding all the areas with those. You're also flooded degrees, and not everybody does as well as everybody else. So you have a bunch of people who might have a
yeah.
degree in a good area, but they can't do anything with it anyway
And it
because
But
they
you
doesn't
don't
want to
tell
know
own
you
one of the
anything.
number
anything
one
about,
sources of income for the US government? Student
Student
loans.
loan,
Guess
yeah,
what,
interest, yeah,
sheep? You're paying the government.
yeah.
yeah,
That's it.
it is.
Well,
We all did it
it's,
too.
I think it's interesting too that like everybody gets a degree and there's no grade on your degree. So everybody, no matter what, if you pay the money, you're like even across the board in the eyes of somebody who's looking at your degree. And the other thing too is I've never once in my entire life had somebody ask me to show them my degree. You
You
can
can
just
lie
write
about that stuff
whatever
and
you
nobody will,
want
yeah.
on it,
Hey,
you
you know
know, like
what? Actually, the only time anybody asked to look at my degree or GPA was what grad school. You're
yeah,
applying for more school, right? That's the only
yeah.
time.
Hmm.
Yeah,
That's
no,
literally
I
it.
think
I've
that's
never
fair.
had an employer be like, "Oh, you went somewhere. Can I see your degree?" No, they're just like they just trust you blindly, and it
Hmm.
because it doesn't matter to them either. But they also know, like I was trying to say, like there's no grade, like it doesn't show your
Uh,
GPA on your degree. So two people could go for the same thing, and one could have taken all this action and done all these extracurricular things and had a really good GPA, and the other could have just scraped by, and they still get the same sheet of paper, and it looks like they did the same exact thing at the end.
yeah, it's funny. Like to your point, though, I think it's interesting that like nowadays too, I think you can do so much just by doing things on your own, taking action, and you can show
Yeah.
people that you know how to do things by doing them.
Yes.
And I mean, that's a great position to be in because you can do as much or as little as you want. It's entirely up to you. And this is something that was hard to like. I and it took me a long time in my life to learn this because it's hard. You think like the model everybody told you when you're young is true, and then as you grow
Mhm.
up, you realize it's totally not. And then,
Yeah,
that's depressing. But then if you break away from that, you realize that, oh, it is really up to me. However much I do, I'm going to get back, basically. And that's
totally.
it.
And I
Yeah.
think it
And
is
so
something that employers look at, right? Is like they're looking at the action you take because that shows, right? And we teach that inside the web dev incubator is that our goal is to make sure that by the time you're done, you have this overflowing portfolio of real world projects, not little, games that you
tic-tac-toe,
made or huh?
not tic-tac-toe.
And
Yeah,
to-do
not
lists. To-do
tic-tac-toe,
lists are
not
also a
to-do
big
list,
favorite of
not any of
documentation.
that stuff. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
But
Like,
like, so I mean, Paula mentioned it earlier, how investing in yourself is one of the best investments you can do. And I constantly remind myself of this because like everybody's looking for the best investment. They're like, how do I buy what's the next Tesla? Like, oh man, if I knew Tesla like 10 or if I knew Amazon like 20 years ago, oh,
mhm.
everybody wants the next best
Or
investment, but
Dogecoin.
literally,
Don't forget
yeah,
Dogecoin.
but literally hands down, there is no single investment that pays off better than investing in yourself. Now, we've been knocking university because that's a lousy investment in yourself.
Mm,
Sometimes it can pay off, but in the majority of cases, it's a lousy investment in yourself. And
Yeah.
we even knock boot camps, but yet all of us went and we did one.
yeah,
And
And
and it
universities.
and
benefited us too.
Multiple
and you
Let's
know
be
times.
what?
honest.
Yeah. And you know what? Recently, I went back to university and got a master's. And recently, I joined another boot camp. But like these investments, I'm not investing in the actual thing. And I think that's the difference in
Mm,
what separates somebody who's able to succeed and somebody who's not, is I'm using this as a tool to learn, as opposed to thinking that I will get something out of this, because it really all depends on what I'm able to put into it.
Yeah, and that I think does separate out people a lot though, because I was the same way. You're paying for it, and that motivated me a lot more, right, to get it done in that time frame because it's like, okay, I have a lot of invested in this. I need to do something with that investment, right? Otherwise, it's worthless.
yeah. So I want to move the conversation from just us talking
Come on,
shit
can we keep nodding stuff for another 20 some minutes? This is
yeah.
It
really
is
burning
fun.
off a lot of that
No, but
negative
I
energy. This is
want people to
great.
get some value out of this too, instead of us just complaining. So my question is, how would you guys suggest that if I'm brand new to software development, if I've never done anything in the field before, how would I start taking action? Because I think that was one of the things for me that I was so confused about. Like, what's the path to go down, right? Like, how do I figure out what I'm gonna do with myself every day when I wake up? Like, how do I know
I
what's
think
my
I think
next
this is
step?
the best way to go about it. So you collect as many free resources as you can, and basically take like 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years just becoming a developer, following other people's tutorials, doing that stuff, because eventually one day you'll be a developer. I think that's kind of the best way to go about it. And
I'm
don't
sensing some
don't pay
sarcasm
for
here.
don't pay for anything, because clearly
Six,
if
7 years.
somebody wants you to pay for something, they're just out to get you. They're not here to add any value
True,
to your life. You
true.
definitely just want, because developers is one of the few things you can do without paying an absolute cent for. And it's better just to take as long as possible with all these free resources and just never have any guidance from anyone who knows anything worthwhile. So that's
Okay.
my answer.
That's a method, very snarky.
I woke up on the wrong side of the
Oh
bed today.
man.
We can tell. That's okay. Get
Yeah.
it out though,
So
because
for
you feel
anyone
better when
listening,
you do
that is
that.
not what you should do.
No, but
That
I
was
think no, but he
sarcasm.
does make a good point though,
No, I
actually, in a
know.
sarcastic, very snarky way. But like, yeah, I think this is one of the things a lot of people struggle with because it's like, I don't know. I remember you guys probably remember this too. Like when we started at boot camp, like I had first coded back like in high school and it was HTML building webs. That was it. That was all
Yeah.
basically there was, right? And it's like when we started looking at it again, I was like, oh my God, there's so much stuff. Like there's so many tools, so many things, and they seem to
Yeah.
come out daily. So it's super overwhelming at first if you don't know
It
what you're
is.
interested, don't know what you want to do. So I think having people to help you can be like invaluable for moving you forward in the right direction without wasting time. And I think that's
Yeah.
to Randy's point, right? Because if you just kind of go to each next shiny thing, you're going to waste a lot of time not finding what you want.
Yeah, totally. Um, so I wanted to say this, and to both of your points. I mean, I think Randall's comment was hilarious because
Well,
as as snarky as that was, that is literally the reality for a lot of developers, including myself. I mean, I did that. I spent years just sort of like playing around with different development things in like Code Academy and YouTube tutorials and so forth. And I think one of the reasons why people end up doing that is because they just don't know the direction to go. Like they don't know what I should be learning to actually accomplish my goals. And more than that, they don't actually have a goal in mind, right? They're just sort of
yeah,
aimlessly like wandering in this big field of software development. So one of the things I'll get to you in a sec, Danny. One of the
yeah, I know.
things that
Just keep going.
I wanted to mention is today in our web dev incubator, we're actually going to be doing quarterly planning. And this is like an amazing tool that helps you sort of set a path and a vision for yourself. And I think that's something that a lot of people could benefit from is, yes, it helps to know sort of the progression towards getting to a web development role, like the things that you need to learn, like the HTML, the CSS, the JavaScript, the frameworks, the databases, the APIs, like all that stuff, how it all works together. But then also actually sitting down and taking some time away from coding and planning, right? I think that's like huge is you need to plan your action to know what direction am I going. And so that's why we're doing it in today's um in our mentoring session after this call is because we want everybody inside the web dev incubator to have a plan for each quarter, right? So that they know, okay, this is where I'm heading and have like, even a theme for what I'm going to be doing this quarter so that you're not just sort of aimlessly wandering around the field of software development. I think that's huge. And when it comes to taking action, it's huge to be able to do something like that. So go ahead, Danny. You had
No, I
something
was
to
gonna say to your point actually, and it fits well with that. It's like the quarterly planning is really well because you break down a large goal into small parts with
say.
achievable ends right within. So you see your progress in the immediate present. And the other thing I was gonna say too is like I remember before, man, when we were like just looking at free materials and stuff, like a lot of times you might feel like you're getting good at something, but you don't ever know how to go to the next step. Like I
Yeah,
know we all spoke about this before, like like there was times where I felt like I know most of this thing, but I don't know how to put it together into an actual functioning web
yeah,
app or program. Like I don't even know how to get to that step because none of this stuff tells you, none of the free stuff out there gives you any indication of how to do that. There's no like
totally.
start to finish, right? So yeah, I think having that guidance is super helpful. And then planning is crucial. If you're going to take action, you have to have a clear idea of what the hell you're doing, right? How you're going to
Yeah.
act and the direction you're going to go.
Yeah, I think that's like huge. I think a lot of people when they're get into software development, you watch enough tutorials and you start to see the technologies that you need to learn, right? HTML, CSS, JavaScript, APIs, databases, things like that. You start to see all that stuff. Um, but it's hard to connect the dots and say, okay, when do I learn this? When do I learn that? How does this work with that? Because there's just so many pieces and there's so much noise too. I mean, that's something that I see all the time is if you've ever looked up anything on YouTube about coding, you probably get fed a ton of different coding videos.
Right.
And they're all some new technology, some, you know, whatever. There's just so much out there. And 90% of it is just noise. It's like there's not even a point of watching this because it's just going to take you away from the important stuff. Go ahead, Randall.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that because I look at it, I liken it to the comment earlier about like some degrees in school will actually get you work. So like,
Yeah.
yes, you study a hard science, you do well in it, you'll get work. You study art history, you're screwed. Okay. Sorry to break it to a lot of people. But here's the thing, like if you think about yourself, what do you spend most of your day doing? Messing around on the
Mm,
internet and web
yeah.
apps. What's the technology behind the internet and web apps? HTML, CSS, JavaScript, React,
Yeah.
some backend. That's basically it. If you do that, you will be set for life. Like
Pretty
pretty
much.
much,
Yeah.
yeah. You don't need to worry about like what crazy new technology is coming out, what next technology, you know,
Next.js.
Yeah.
what comes after next? What's
Yeah.
next? But yeah, because basically if you just do the fundamentals, they'll be there forever. And that's
Yeah.
a
I
Sweet.
mean, you
very,
can
very easy
still
way to
code
go
a,
about doing it.
yeah.
And here's the thing, like if you're confused, because I always think about this. I was like, if I knew what I know now
Mm.
back 20 years ago, I would have just stuck with learning HTML, CSS, JavaScript and literally
Yeah.
just done that. And even now, I said, if I was to start again from zero right now, what would I learn? HTML, CSS, JavaScript.
Yeah,
I would
because you
Because
start
you
can
with
do
those
that
still
stuff,
definitely.
code a
you
full
can
website in those. Like
Yeah.
you
you don't
can
need
literally
a
do anything.
framework. Yeah.
Yeah, you can do anything with those.
Yeah,
No, and,
totally.
and to your point too, I think like people like looking at the news and seeing all like layoffs and stuff. Like, there's no jobs. It's like, well, that's stuff that we all need the internet. Everyone needs it. Every company needs a website. Everybody needs a way to get in touch with their clients, to advertise, to do all this stuff. And guess what? For most people, it's difficult, it's obscure, and it's hard to work with. So they need somebody that knows what the hell they're doing. And so, there's always going to be work.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you are starting, I mean, I think it makes sense to sort of dabble for a little bit and just explore what's out there. If you're just brand new into coding, you're like, hey, I'm curious, what this is all about. Absolutely, I think take some time and actually look at the free resources out there. But when you're ready to take this seriously and you're like, okay, I'm committed to this idea of becoming a web developer, those free resources, they just fall short. And you need to actually find someone, some community, some network that's going to take you to the next level because it's just impossible to do it on your own.
Yeah, at
Even if
some
you're
point, right?
self-taught, that's okay. You're learning on your own, but you need some community to help you be accountable and, you know, give you
Yeah.
direction, I think.
Well, like I think we all found, right? At some point, the books and the tutorials, they just fall short. At a certain point, you stop using them, because they're just not providing enough anymore for where you're at in your development. And you need something else to get you there, right? I mean, I think that's the hard part for a lot of people is that middle phase where you like
Yeah.
kind of know stuff, but don't know where to go with it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, Randall.
So Einstein said that doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result is insanity. And
Yeah.
so, I just want to relate a story to people. So, like, I understand where you're coming from wanting to use free resources because that's my default mode too. I want to invest as little money as possible and get the biggest result possible. So,
Hmm.
I was doing the same thing with cybersecurity, studying for this exam, which is essentially the hardest cybersecurity exam called the OSCP. And
Mm.
I was doing it all free resources because I want to spend as little money possible and get the biggest results possible to pay off at the end. But the thing is, it was just never ending, never ending. And then
Mhm.
eventually I just needed to jump, take the action, and I joined an OSCP bootcamp. And in this bootcamp, they don't even guarantee that they'll help you pass the exam, which is pretty crazy. But what it did was instead of it being me taking the OSCP sometime out there in the future, 6 months, a year, whatever it is, now I'm going to be taking it in 3 months. So like all of a sudden, just taking that action, investing in myself, which is the best investment that you can do, all of a sudden moved it from some out there future thing to all of a sudden it's going to be happening in 3 months. And I
Yeah.
think that's something that anybody who's been orbiting around web development, if you've been doing the same thing and expecting different results, you've been using these free resources, expecting different results, you've been going to boot camps, expecting different results, you need to do something differently. And yeah,
Totally. I want to answer Andrew's question. So Andrew wrote, I'm probably right in the middle ground where I know the concepts, but I don't know where to take it. What should I do? And I think that's a great question because, Andrew, I think most people who are in this group are probably right where you are. They've either been wandering for a little bit, they might have done a boot camp and felt like they were left in the dust or something like that. And they're just wondering how to actually make that next step. And I'm going to answer it in two ways. The first one is that this depends a lot on your goal, right? Is your goal to work at Google? Is your goal to just get any job as soon as possible? Is your goal to do freelance work? What is your actual goal? Because that's going to dictate the direction that you go. If your goal is to get a job at Google, you're going to have to do a lot more work than if your goal is to just get a job at any software company like nearby. So defining that actual role for yourself, or not role necessarily, but the goal, right? Some people might just want to start their own SaaS product. And so, that's again going to be something very different. So That's one. The next one is you have to find somebody who's done what you've done. I mean, we all know that. If you want to accomplish a goal in your life, you find somebody who's already done what you've done and you follow what they did. It's a very simple concept, and I think people forget that a lot is that if you want to find a job in web development, you got to find a web developer and talk to them and figure out what they did to get there. And that's what we do inside the web dev incubator is that we actually help people figure out where they're going and then how to get there and what they need to do to get there. So, if you are interested, that's something that I would suggest for you, especially sort of where you're saying you are. Like, the concepts, right? And the concepts are great. It's important to know those things, but then you need that plan of action and you need the accountability to get yourself there. So that's how I would answer that. I don't know if you guys have a different answer to that, but I think that's really the most important to me in terms of answer.
I would just say too, like, I mean, I remember when we were learning together and like if we hadn't been meeting every Saturday, there's no way I would have ever gotten to where I was because
Yeah.
that gave me a level of accountability and a way to learn stuff that I wasn't directly doing through talking to you guys and stuff too. That was super helpful and pushed me to take things from, because I think one of the biggest mistakes we make in learning is we don't follow things through to the end. We
Yeah.
jump from thing to thing. And it's way easier to follow things through the end when you have people with you, working with you, and meeting with you regularly, because it keeps that sort of pressure up to keep performing, to keep doing it, and to not like just slack off or do something different or get, distracted.
Yeah. And I know that we talk about the web dev incubator a lot and some people may be turned off by that. And that's fine. Like, I understand that. I want people to actually use this group and this call, like this weekly live stream. If you don't want to pay for something or you can't afford something right now, this is something really that you're getting for free. That's huge value every single week that can keep you accountable. Like be accountable to coming to this call because it's a start, right? Come
Yeah.
to this call and ask your questions here because we are more than open to answering them, right? Um, yeah, Paula says, good awareness, Andrew. Knowledge alone is no longer enough. Knowing how to put it into action based on your goals is the right next step. Do you have an accountability group or mentor that you can support with this? Yeah. So do you, Andrew? I mean, you can answer inside the chat, but yeah, for anybody who doesn't and just wants sort of that accountability group, you can come to this call every Saturday, and we can be that for you, right? Even if you're just coming here, it's something that you're being consistent with, and that's going to help you from a web developer standpoint to just be consistent with your own knowledge. So,
Yeah.
yeah, that's how Chris says. That's how I started, just showing up here every Saturday, and I'm not a morning person.
Yeah. No, but
Yeah,
you're
sorry,
right though.
Chris.
Having any kind of like it's funny how like even having one little thing a week that you're going to do every time that
Yeah,
week is a good start to building those habits too, and also to kind of framing your mind too around the idea that this is the goal that I'm going to pursue and achieve,
totally.
right?
Yeah,
Because it's
it's a
so
commit.
easy to get distracted. There's so much shit, It's
Yeah,
like, oh
it's like
God.
you're really committed to becoming a developer at this point because you're showing up every single week to this call to be sure, um, you know, that you want to
And
be
actually,
here.
can I make one other point too? Like, and this is just from personal experience, so it might not speak to everybody, but I remember when we were learning too, like I was scared a lot because I was one to transition jobs. I hated my old job, and it's scary starting over, and it
Yeah,
feels like that. At least you're starting over, even though you're not. But like, it's scary to start over, like in the middle of your life, and it's scary to like, both you're scared of success and failure because you don't want to let yourself down, but you also don't know what the success is going to look like. And so that having that Saturday meetings too, and like having that accountability helps so much because it just helped me like focus on what I was doing now and not worry about those fears,
mhm.
not worry about that stuff. And then they go away over time because you realize like, oh, you're doing it. Like I am a
Yeah.
developer. I don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think that's one of the things that I really like about the quarterly planning too, is that it just gives you focus so you don't get caught up in all the shiny objects because in software development, there's just so much of that. Like every single day, you can be distracted by something new and you end up getting nowhere very fast, right? You just end up like spinning in circles over all these different technology and you learn none of it. You get like
Yeah.
10% of it and everyone, every video that you're going to watch on YouTube is going to make it sound like it's the next biggest thing. I mean, I even remember when ChatGPT came out and people were like, "Oh my god, this is revolutionary. You're going to be able to do anything. It can code anything." It hasn't happened really right? Like it's a
No.
tool that we can use and it's a powerful tool. It's great, but ChatGPT is not coding any web apps right now. I'm sorry, it's not, right? Web
No.
developers are still out there doing this job. So, and they're going to continue to do that because people like to hype things up and that's just not the truth. So, Andrew said, I've been trying to hold myself accountable by dedicating some time before and after I get off work to practice skills to build the foundation. I agree, Daniel. I feel stuck between whether I should, oops, whether I should pursue an IT career or keep safe where I am because I'm an older learner at 40 years old. Andrew, you're not
Hey,
older.
you're not.
I'm
I'm
about to
over
be
40.
37. They're over 40. Like you're not old, dude.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Andrew, there was something, I think, I don't remember what book it was in, but he was talking about, this concept that people think that they're too old to do something. And so if you think about a person's productive life, generally, when does that start? Roughly around 20. And when does that end? Maybe 70, maybe later nowadays. You look at our presidents and stuff like that, maybe 100. Okay. So, like, you figure between 20 and we'll just say 80 for the sake of an argument. Well, halfway between that is 50. Okay. So you're not even halfway through your productive life yet. Really, you're 20 years out of potentially 60 years. So maybe you're a third of the way through your productive life. So, but the thing that'll hold you back is that concept that, oh, I'm too old to change right now. And
But
yeah.
that's the only thing.
And I
the other
want to
thing
say
too,
something too. Go ahead,
I'm sorry.
Danny.
I was gonna say the other thing I would add too, just is like I was in the same position as you, coming up to 40 and stuff, switching careers, it's scary, but at the same time, it's like don't regret it at all because the fact of the matter is like I wasn't happy before. I needed a change. And so that change made all the difference. And I think it's worthwhile to keep that in mind. Like, do you really want to stay in a comfortable position where you're unhappy, or do you really want to try and do something? Because you still have time to do it.
Yeah. I wanted to say this, which is do okay, when it comes to changing careers, right? We have this thought of like, I'm too old to change to something new, right? Is that more important holding on to that idea than it is to just do something you hate for the rest of your life? I mean, like literally, like is it is it worth trying something new and maybe failing in the hope that like you do something that maybe you really love? Or do you want to just sit there and like waste away? I mean, you only get one life. As far as we know, you only get one. So
I
do
don't
you want
know.
to make the most of it? Do you want to like choose to be whatever you can be, or do you want to actually just sit there and like do whatever it is you're doing now because it's just what you're doing now, and it's like you made that
Yeah.
decision when you were much younger. I mean, I think that's one of the craziest things is we make this decision of what we're going to do with our life before our frontal lobe has even like fully developed, and
Yeah,
then
our
we're
brains
just
aren't even fully
committed to
developed yet.
that for the rest of our like we have this concept of, well, you got to do that because that's what you went to college for. It doesn't make sense. Like, come on,
No, it's
you're
stupid.
an adult, you can make a new decision and go with that.
I will say too, though, it's like I found, I mean, I'm sure this is true for a lot of people too. You're more mature now too. So actually committing to something, you're going to do way better than you did when you were younger because you're way
Totally.
more mature. You know what you're after. You know your goals. You know yourself a lot more. It's actually a lot faster process when you do it right when you're older, I think.
Yeah, totally. Well, we're at 30 minutes. I want to continue this conversation, but we're gonna have to wait till next week. So everybody who's here, commit to being here next week because look at
Yeah.
all the value that we've gotten out of this conversation, and we really enjoy when you guys chime in and we can have this sort of back and forth conversation. So, thank you guys again for tuning in. Do you guys have any final thoughts?
Well, for
Yeah.
people who are looking to take it to the next level, this
Yeah,
may not be for everyone, may not be for you, but for those of you who it is for, we actually do offer an incredible program called Web Dev Incubator, where we literally take web developers, even starting from zero experience, from learning to earning, because that is the missing niche out there. There are a billion boot camps, there's a billion free resources online, but nobody, except for us, will actually get you work and get you to be a real web developer. And we're so confident in our ability to do it that we guarantee it 100%. So if
yeah,
that is something that you're looking for, we are almost finishing up the beta now. So prices are going to rise pretty soon, but at
yeah.
the time right now, they are not. So reach out to us on Facebook, check out the website codenews.io/mentoring. or schedule a call with any one of us, and we can discuss if this is something that's right for you. May not be for everybody, may not be for you, but there are some people that they're ready.
Yeah, absolutely. If you are committed, this is probably the best chance you have of actually becoming a web developer. So I implore you to just give it a try. And, if you have questions, reach out to us. We're happy to answer those for you. If you are inside the web dev incubator, awesome on you. And we will see you in about a half hour. This week, we are doing quarterly planning, which is, I think everyone's going to have a lot of fun doing that. It's super exciting and it gives you a lot of vision, right? It helps you know where you're going so that you stay on track towards your goals. So, um, how do we schedule a call with you guys if you see this is a good fit? You can just reach out to us on Facebook. The three of us, Randall, Russell, and Danny. Otherwise, you can, I don't know how, oh, there's a
Check
post
the action
inside.
link, the action
Yeah,
post.
there's an action post inside the Facebook group. It just says like, you said yes to whatever, and it has like a big yellow banner sort
Book
of
a
on it.
free action call.
Yeah, and there's a link in there to book a free action call. And basically all that is a 30-minute call where we go over your goals, what you're looking to do, and we give you a vision of how to get there. That's pretty much it. So, and then, if the program's for you, we explain all the details. We don't accept everybody, by the way. Like we really want people who are committed. It's not just like, hey, I want a group of friends. We want people who are committed to a vision of becoming a web developer. So it is not for everybody. We don't accept everybody. But if you want to see if it is for you, book an action call because we are happy to discuss that with you and see if this is the right program for you. Because we actually, at the end of the day, we just want success for people. It's super cheap. I mean, it's super cheap. It's just we want people to be committed to this. We want people to have skin in the game. That's really the only reason we charge for it. So if it is something you're thinking about, head over to that post or just reach out to us. Like say, hey, what's up? I was on the live stream and I just wanted to chat, and we'll be happy to schedule a call with you guys. So thanks again for tuning in. Great live stream, everybody. We will see you next week, bright and early at 9 a.m. Saturday. We are here every week. We've been doing this for 3 years now. Like we don't drop the ball, guys. So we will see you next week. Peace out.
Later.
Enjoy. Have a great Saturday, everybody.